some pretty big time uh, finishes, some expected, some not expected, which that's what makes every weekend so much fun in this great sport that we like to talk about and watch daily. Um, I'm Jake McKenzie. This is Pad Level coming to you from Western North Carolina. It's Sunday, November 16th. It's about 8 minutes past 4 p.m. Um, you'll be listening, watching this, and maybe this evening or tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon, maybe Tuesday. I don't know. But whenever it is, I appreciate you checking in and listening to what I've got to say and kind of being with me as we talk through what's going on in college football today. So I really do appreciate it. If you are here, why not go ahead and subscribe? It takes about 5 seconds. Why not do that? Why not rate it a little 5 star? It'd be quick and easy. Why not leave a comment on what you thought about the weekend? We're going to start doing a little comment of the week when I get on here with Griffin and Dalton, my twin brothers, here in the middle of the week. We're going to each come in with a comment of the week that we like the most. So you might get shouted out. We've been shouting them out some every now and then. We're going to make a point to do it all throughout the show from now on. So appreciate you if you're here, and I appreciate you checking in. So we're gonna be kind of hopping around, gonna be kind of jumping around a little bit, and it's because I got to watch a lot of football yesterday, a lot, and I am thankful to the big man up there for allowing me to do that. Not every weekend do I get to sit and watch, just basically sit and watch all day, and I almost got to do that yesterday, pretty much. So that's always super exciting, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I want to have more weekends like it. Next weekend's going to be a little bit different. We got some things coming down the pipe next weekend. All right, I'm heading back to my alma mater of Kennesaw State. We're going to watch them play the Missouri State Bears at home. They're in Kennesaw, Fifth Third Bank Stadium. And I'm super excited about that. Now, what the plan is this, a little bonus episode in Kennesaw. Where am I going to do it? What exactly am I going to talk about? You'll see. Okay, I'm excited about being there. I hadn't been there probably in 4 years, honestly. Actually been back. So I'm excited about it. It'll be the first time Taylor gets to go. She'll get to see the old stomping grounds. So I'm pretty excited about it. Excited to watch the Owls play in person. Did not have the ending wanted to have last night, obviously, for the alumni of Kennesaw State. They had chances and they turned the ball over too many times. I think through 2 picks, maybe 3. One of them was in the end zone. I mean, the picks were easy interceptions for the defense, kind of throwing right to them. And it's going to be really tough to win when you're playing a team like Jacksonville State, who's got a high-powered offense. Quarterback can absolutely run. The running back can absolutely run and break tackles. It's just going to be really tough when you shoot yourself in the foot like that to end up winning the game. But here's the thing, though. They had a chance. They only lost the game by, I think it was 6. And after all that, they still had a shot to go win the game. So, I mean, that says a lot about them. I mean, here's the thing about Kennesaw State. Between the 20s, let me tell you, they will throw the ball right down the field, and they will get gone. When they got in the red zone, they had some big issues. That's where the turnovers came in. That's where penalties happened. I mean, you're down, 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, false start. I mean, it happened like 3 or 4 times. I'm telling you, it was, you want to talk about shooting yourself in the foot. Kennesaw State did it, but still had a chance to win. So now they're in a position where they need to win out to get into Well, they need to win out to get into the conference championship game. If they win one, lose the other, they got to have other teams not win out. So ideally, you win all those counting yesterday, but you can't go back and change it now. So you got to win out now, and you get a rematch with Jacksonville State as long as they win out. So you're still in a good position, but now you've got to win out. Juke's here. He made an appearance. He can't stand it. He loves the camera, and honestly, the camera loves him. You see that right there? You see that? He's trying to get a little sniff. No licks, though. All right. So the G5 is shaking. It's shook. It's completely shaken up. South Florida goes to Annapolis to play Navy. And Navy just scored every time they touched the ball, it seemed like. I mean, they couldn't not score. They're throwing it. They're running it. I mean, it's like their first play from scrimmage. They hand off, I think it's a trap right up the middle and score, So to the B-back, I mean, from the beginning of the game, they were rolling. Now, on defense, they did a decent job in the first half. Second half, South Florida kind of was getting the ball, moving the ball a little bit, but every time South Florida did something, Navy would respond. So Navy has now beaten South Florida. You've got, South Florida's out of the picture. They're out of the picture, which is not what anybody thought after they go and beat Boise State and they go beat Florida. Nobody thought that from USF. So, I mean, it's a very interesting look here. Let's check it out. So now you've got only 4 teams with one loss: Navy, Tulane, North Texas, East Carolina. Navy's got to play Memphis on Thanksgiving Day. North Texas has the easiest schedule left of all of them. East Carolina beat Memphis yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. They beat Memphis. So Memphis and the 2 teams everybody thought for sure was going to be the G5 team are both now out of the picture. They will not be in the championship game, and they will not be in the playoff picture. So they can go ahead. They're out. If there's any playoff committee people, anybody out there who's saying, well, they're still the best, it doesn't matter. They have lost too many games. They're out of it. And if somebody tries to put them in there, I'll probably get pretty pissed. They're not there anymore. You can get rid of them. East Carolina's got UTSA and Florida Atlantic left. North Texas has Rice and Temple. Tulane has Temple and then Charlotte. That's also a pretty easy schedule. And Navy has got Memphis. And they got Army, but that's after the championship game. So here's the thing about Navy. Navy, if they go and beat Memphis, they got a bye week. They go and beat Memphis on Thanksgiving Day, Thanksgiving night in Memphis. If they can win that one, they'll get themselves into the championship game, I believe. If they win the championship game, which will be the week before Army-Navy, they could get into the playoff and then play Army when everybody else is sitting, they got a week off. They'll play Army, and that game won't matter for the playoff. Now, it always matters, of course, but it won't matter for the playoff because they'll be either in or out at that time. So, and then, they could play Memphis, bye week, Memphis, championship game, Army, playoff, if they beat Memphis. So, and I don't know what the tiebreakers are. I got to go look that up. I don't know what they freaking are because you're going to have probably multiple teams with one loss. It might be Navy and North Texas. Might be Navy and Tulane. Might be Tulane and North Texas. East Carolina could be in there as well. So, with South Florida, everybody thought South Florida and Memphis are the teams of a rematch. Now both these teams have lost 2 or 3 games now in conference. Memphis got 3 conference losses. So they're out of it. South Florida's got 2. South Florida would need everybody to lose twice, or at least some of the one-loss teams to lose twice to, for them to even have a chance. So It's the American Conference. J- James Madison is kind of getting what they want as far as American Conference just beating up on each other. So then, say you got Memphis plays Navy, then Memphis beats Navy Thanksgiving Day. Tulane, North Texas, East Carolina have pretty easy schedules. And so, say East Carolina drops one and then one other team drops one, and you got a one-loss American team in the conference championship and a two-loss. This is conference losses. And say the two-loss team beats them. James Madison's sitting there undefeated in conference, one loss to Louisville. And James Madison will probably be the G5 team to get in. Duke got their butts beat. And this is the ACC, not AAC, ACC. Duke got their butts beat. So the whole thing where Duke could be the ACC champ and ACC doesn't get in, that's out. That ain't happening no more. You got Georgia Tech, who won a barn burner versus Boston College. Georgia Tech's defense has got to get straightened out. They win the game late, but they're still winning, right? I mean, there are people out there saying doesn't matter how you win, you're just winning. You just got to win at this time of year. So you still got 4 teams at the top of the ACC with 1 loss. Duke is now out of the picture. Okay, Miami's out of the picture as far as conference championship. Miami's going to have a chance to be an at-large in the playoff. SMU, Pittsburgh, Virginia, Georgia Tech. Pittsburgh, Pat Narduzzi said, hey, I don't care if we lose 110-10 versus Notre Dame. We got to win out in the conference. Well, they lost badly versus Notre Dame. But they could end up winning these next 2 because I believe Georgia Tech is one of those teams they got to play. Georgia Tech and Miami. I mean, that's a pretty big game. They're going to be in Atlanta this weekend. I'll be in the Atlanta area this weekend for Kennesaw State, Missouri State. Pittsburgh will be down the interstate in downtown Atlanta playing Georgia Tech. What time do they play? They play at 7. Kennesaw State plays at 2 or 3. I could make both. We could go Kennesaw State, Missouri State, and then drive down to Bobby Dodd, right down the interstate, and check out Pitt at Georgia Tech. Now let me tell you something. That would be a weekend. Let me check the ticket prices on that. I mean, that would be something crazy, but that would be awesome. That'd be great. I might even wear my Kennesaw State stuff into the Georgia Tech game. People say, what the heck are you doing? I'll say, get away from me, dude. Or chick, whoever it is. I'm not taking negativity today. Anyway, that's off on a tangent. All right, so you got Georgia Tech, Virginia, Pittsburgh, and SMU. Virginia beat Duke, got after him big time. Virginia's off, and they got Virginia Tech. The rivalry game that's what's going to make them or break them to get into the conference championship game. Pittsburgh got Georgia Tech and Miami, got 2 big games to win. Georgia Tech has got 1 more. They got Pitt, and then they got Georgia in Mercedes-Benz. So this is Georgia Tech's last chance. Georgia Tech's got to beat Pittsburgh, and they're in the ACC championship game. It'll be interesting to see what the playoff committee does. It's all going to come back to the committee. Where are they going to put Georgia Tech? Where are they going to put Miami? Miami will still be in front of Georgia Tech. They're already in front of them. They'll both move up. Okay? But here's the thing. I wonder, because they were so close to Boston College, will they move Georgia Tech up at all? Where they leave them? With Indiana, they left them. Now, Penn State has probably a different roster than Boston College. I understand. But they left Indiana at 2. Texas A&M dominated Missouri that week. Now, Texas A&M came back from a 30-3 deficit and won 31-30. That's a whole nother story we'll talk about in a second. I just want to know what the committee's going to do. Give me something definitive. We haven't got it yet. It's only been 2 weeks, though. We're going into the 3rd week of it. And I'm excited to see what they say and what they do. Will I agree? I don't know. Maybe. But there's going to be a show on Tuesday. And I'm going to watch it. And then we'll see what happens. And then we'll talk about it. Griffin Dalton and I will get on the show and we'll talk about it. And that's what we all want to do is just talk, talk, talk. That's what we want to do. So, the Big 12, Texas Tech, BYU both took care of business. Utah took care of business. So, it's still looking like that rematch, Texas Tech, BYU in the Big 12 championship. Texas Tech should have a bye this week. Yep, and they got to go to West Virginia. That's not just a show up and win game. West Virginia almost beat Arizona State, had a chance to beat Arizona State yesterday. All right, you may say Arizona State's not that good. Well, they're better than West Virginia, and West Virginia almost beat them. So you got that. BYU's got 2 games left. They go to Cincinnati. Now, Cincinnati lost to Arizona, and Cincinnati's kind of going backwards. And Arizona went to Cincinnati also, if I'm not mistaken. So Cincinnati is going downhill. Yeah, so they got BYU at home, TCU away. That's Cincinnati. So obviously Cincinnati's out of the picture as far as Big 12 goes. And I mean, I guess unless they beat BYU, then that'll probably bump them up because they'll have head-to-head. And then BYU beat Utah. So, the BYU Cincinnati game is going to tell us all we want to know. I'm thinking right now, BYU is probably going to pummel them. Just by the way that they're playing a little bit inconsistent right now. BYU came off the loss last week and just dominated TCU last night. So I'm feeling like it's going to be the old rematch. And but you know what? I mean, we can say it all we want, but hey, we got to actually see the games. Got to watch the games. You got to see what happens. The games have to be played. It's all fun and games to just talk about it, and we're going to talk about it. Don't get me wrong, we're going to, but we got to play the game to actually know what's going to happen. All right, and then you got the Big Ten. Now, here's the interesting thing about the Big Ten. Indiana, Ohio State seem like locks. Indiana's got a bye. They got Purdue on rivalry weekend. Ohio State, who do they have this week? I know they obviously got Michigan rivalry. They got Rutgers at home. Rutgers beware. And then they got to go to the big house in Michigan and play, I think they call it the game. So Ohio State's basically, they've got to beat Michigan. And they haven't done it in about 4 years. This would be 5 in a row if they lost it again. They just seem like a different crew, and maybe Michigan's just got their number. I don't know. But I think Ohio State, and that's 2 weeks away. I'm not even going to get into that. Shut up. Now, here's what I was going to talk about. You've got a 3-way, you got 3 teams trying to get the at-large spot or spots in the Big Ten. USC, Oregon, Michigan. You know what's going to make this way easier? Thank you, Big Ten, for scheduling this game. USC and Oregon play each other Saturday. Can you believe that? In Eugene, Oregon at 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central. And if you want to go all the way to Pacific, where they're going to be, guess what? It's 12:30 in the afternoon. Hey, that's going to be a great game, man. It's gonna really solidify at large for the Big Ten. For one, it's a play-in game for one. It's a play-out game for the other. Because the team who wins, USC plays UCLA the next week. I feel like they're going to beat UCLA. Oregon, the last weekend of the season, plays Washington. Now that's no joke. So Oregon easily has the most difficult schedule in November in the Big Ten, it looks like, of that large teams, right? Oregon has played Iowa. Tough game at Iowa. They got to play USC at Washington. They played Minnesota on Friday and just pummeled the piss out of them. But now you got Michigan, who's got to go to Maryland and then play Ohio State at home. Maryland is really kind of rocky right now. Mike Locksley, they said, hey, he's with us for next year. He's here. So that's good. That's great for continuity. Now, and they said, hey, we're going to up the financial situation so that way we can be more competitive. So we'll see what happens. My man Howarth is over there in the video department. So I got that's my boy there. So anyway, hopefully for them, they get it rolling. Now they're going to get it rolling against Michigan. I don't know, but I hope one of these days while he's there, they do it. So you have no teams in the Big Ten with 2 losses in the conference. You've got Indiana, Ohio State undefeated, USC, Oregon, Michigan with 1 loss. You're going to have one of those 2, for sure, USC or Oregon with 1 loss. Now, Michigan had to scratch and claw to get out of Wrigley Field against Northwestern. They had a game-winning field goal to win the game. Just win, baby. That's what the playoff committee's saying. Just win. If you're Indiana. Just win. You know, if you're Ole Miss and you play the Citadel and Texas Tech beats BYU, they're going to jump you. So that's what I'm saying. I just don't know, right? I just don't know. But we'll find out. Now, and then, hey, man, here's one. The SEC now. Wow, the SEC. So, Texas A&M, I just mentioned it. Texas A&M goes down 30-3 at half to South Carolina, who was 3-6, I believe, going into the game. And it was very bad for Texas A&M. They threw several picks. Marcel Reed looked totally different. And South Carolina, Lenoris Sellers looked totally different from the season. Now, that only mattered in the first half because the second half, South Carolina looked bad. And Texas A&M looked like they had been looking the rest of the season, and they compacted it all in that one half and won 31-30. And the crazy thing is this. Texas A&M is going in to score. They're inside the 5, and they run some trick play where the running back throws it back to Marcel Reed, and he throws it way behind him, and South Carolina gets on the football. Now, if it would have been stopped and it would have scooped and scored it, upset. Texas A&M loses. But they got lucky, and it was rolling out of bounds, so he had to dive on it, and he got it. And then South Carolina proceeds to get sacked 2 or 3 of the 4 plays that they ran with like less than 2 minutes left. I mean, they're backed up inside their own 20 probably. But then they get sacked 2 or 3 times out of the 4 plays they ran, and then the game was over. So you got to give it to Texas A&M to come back and win the game. You got to be kind of nervous about how bad they looked in the first half. And it doesn't matter if they don't do it again, but they could. They could. Those things could come up and they could bite them. Throwing picks by Marcel Reed. I mean, they were dropped so many passes in the first half. Craver and Concepcion have been so good all year. And then this first half of this game could not catch a ball. I mean, they were just dropping everything. Marcel Reed's chunking the ball out the back of the end zone, just overthrowing the piss out of people. Just super uncharacteristic. And then they go in half, they flip the switch, and they won 31-30. The largest comeback in SEC for, in like 21 years or something. I mean, it's crazy. Alabama loses to Oklahoma. Alabama also turns the ball over after not doing it but a few times all year. Ty Simpson, it's like he didn't remember if they were in the maroon or the white. He was throwing it to the freaking Oklahoma way more than normal. Got sacked a couple times. A couple times it's because of protection. A couple times he's just sitting in the pocket waiting. All right, so it's a little bit of all of it. Oklahoma's offense didn't do a whole lot. They got a whole lot of points from short fields from the turnovers, which that's complimentary football. It's Oklahoma playing great defense, and the offense is Oklahoma capitalizing and scoring. Alabama couldn't do it. They couldn't really force any turnovers. Alabama turned the ball over on a punt return. I mean, they couldn't get out of their own way. And they still had a chance to win. and didn't do it or couldn't do it, whatever. So, I mean, yeah, if you're an Alabama fan, which I know several, I grew up one. There were plenty of chances to win. Too many mistakes. Too many mistakes. Just like my old Kennesaw State Owls, man, they threw multiple picks. Amari Odom, the first quarterback, throws multiple picks in the end zone. All this other stuff. They're going into halftime. This is Kennesaw State, Jacksonville State now. They're going into halftime. Jacksonville State, gets the ball. Kennesaw State tries to kick a field goal. They miss it or something, whatever. And Jacksonville State gets the ball back, 5 seconds left. They're going to throw a Hail Mary. And they throw it up to about the 10-yard line. And 3 Kennesaw State defensive backs go up to try to pick it off. And they tip it right to the Jacksonville State receiver. And he just prances in the end zone. I mean, the most basic coaching point on a Hail Mary, if you're a defensive back, knock it down. Knock it down. And that was exactly why, because they tipped it up and he just trotted under it and just pranced in the end zone. Unbelievable. And I've talked about it with Kennesaw State before. They've only really put 1 or 2 full games together, right? There was one game, it was against Florida International. It's been about a month ago. Came out, they were on fire at the beginning. The middle 8 minutes, I've talked about it. When you can go back and check it. The middle 8 minutes of that game, Kennesaw State was bad. Florida International scored, had a couple stops, scored. They made it somewhat close. And then towards the end of the game, Kennesaw State revved it back up and ended up winning. This is what happened, but this was a much better team that they played. The middle 8 minutes, Kennesaw State lost them badly. And so they lost the game. Too many mistakes. They were in the lead early in the game. In the middle of the game, lost the lead, and then gave up a freebie touchdown. They lost by 6. If they don't give up that touchdown, they win the game. If they don't throw one of those picks, they win the game because he threw the pick in the end zone. He just tossed it up and just threw a pick. And then at the end of the game, they're flying down the field, scoring because they're down a couple scores, and they end up making it a 6-point game. And then they don't get the ball back because Jacksonville State's quarterback was freaking rolling. All right, and there are a couple cats that I coached at Tusculum University that play on the offensive line. They play on the offensive line at Jacksonville State. I got to give them some credit. Adrian Gum, Reggie Jackson, right? They've been commenting on some of my stuff. I like Jacks. I'm thinking, nah, Owls all the way. And they got us. Right? So I'm happy for those two. All right, Adrian hit me up. He said, hey, if Jacksonville State wins, you got to wear some Jacksonville State gear. I said, okay, that's fine. But if Kennesaw State wins, I'm sending you and Reggie Kennesaw State gear to wear. I haven't seen any Jacksonville State gear yet. We'll see what he does. But I'll feel dirty wearing it, I'll tell you that. Anyway, I got off on a tangent there. I was on the SEC. I went all the way back to Conference USA. So anyway, all right, so, and then let's go. I want to talk about the Sun Belt real quick because James Madison is a legitimate contender for the playoff right now. James Madison has Washington State. This is not a conference game, but it's a huge game for them if they want to be ranked high enough to get into the playoff, ranked higher than the highest American Conference champion or whoever. They need to beat Washington State. They need to. They've got him at home, though, so that helps. They don't have to go out to Pullman, Washington. They can be right there in dang, Jamestown or wherever the heck they are. There in Virginia where the United States started or whatever. And then they got to go to Coastal Carolina. Now, Coastal Carolina is right behind them in the standings. And basically, Coastal Carolina had one conference loss going into this weekend. All they had to do, beat Georgia Southern, because they got South Carolina, then James Madison. They lost to Georgia Southern 45-40. I got to give props to Georgia Southern, man. I thought there was no shot. Georgia Southern was favored by 2.5. I thought that's an easy bet, right? Go plus 2.5 with Coastal. Georgia Southern scored 45 points and won the game by 5. I mean, huge for Georgia Southern. Coach Saff over there at Georgia Southern, man, huge for those dudes, right? So, Coastal Carolina was trying to push them. James Madison has clinched a spot in the championship game now, because even if Coastal beats James Madison, it's still 2 losses to 1. James Madison still goes. Now, here is the interesting part, is that James Madison, yeah, they'll get into the championship game even if they lose to Coastal, but if they lose to Coastal, they're not going to be ranked high enough to get into the playoff. James Madison's got to win out if they want to be that G5 player, right? I mean, they got to win out. And Coastal Carolina in Conway, South Carolina, is not going to be very easy. Now, Coastal's going to South Carolina this weekend, and I'm not going to say that Coastal is going to go in and win the game, but I'm going to say that Coastal can compete in that football game. If they see, especially the South Carolina, the second half versus Texas A&M. Now, I understand Coastal and Texas A&M are 2 very different crews, but still, I mean, they can push them a little bit. James Madison needs to win out. Southern Miss lost to who was it? Southern Miss lost to Texas State, got hammered 41-14. Southern Miss has 2 more conference games. They got to play the 2 Bama boys in the Sun Belt. They got to go to South Alabama, and they got Troy at home. All right? Southern Miss has beaten Arkansas State, so they got the tiebreaker on them. Arkansas State's got 2 losses in the Sun Belt. Therefore, even if Southern Miss loses one of those games and they've now got 2 losses in the Sun Belt, Southern Miss is still that team that'll make it to the conference championship. But if Southern Miss goes and loses both games, Arkansas State, as long as they win out, will just walk their way right into the championship game. Because Arkansas State's beating Troy, and Troy's right there behind Arkansas State, right? So Arkansas State needs to win out to give themselves a chance. Southern Miss needs to win one of the 2 to give themselves the spot to clinch in the conference championship game. Charles Huff from Marshall brought basically all of Marshall. We are Marshall. Brought them over to Southern Miss, and they're dominating. All right, so anyway, that's kind of what you're looking at there. You know, I really want to give a little bit of love to the MAC, some action, right? I really do, because watch some action this week, obviously, and last week. I mean, they've got some freaking great games going on. Western Michigan's at the top. Central Michigan, Matt Drinkall used to coach at Army. He's now the head coach there at Central Michigan. You've got Western Michigan at the top with 1 loss in the conference. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You got 5 2-loss teams in the conference right behind them, waiting on them to slip up. And they've got 2 opportunities for them to do that. They play Northern Illinois and Eastern Michigan. Eastern Michigan will be a tough one. Both these games are on the road. And these are both Tuesday night MACtion games. Gosh, dang it, I love it, baby. Give me some more Tuesday games, dude. Let's freaking go. I love that. It's going to be fun to watch Western Michigan try to go etch their spot into the championship game in the MAC. And who's going to follow? Will it be Central Michigan? Will it be Iowa? Will it be Toledo? Or will it be Buffalo? Or will it be Miami of Ohio? Wow, I don't know. It's a lot to happen, so we'll see how that goes. Let's see. I think we've probably hit about everything. Well, the Mountain West, I can't leave them out. All right, because you've got San Diego State at the top, Fresno State and Boise State there with 2 losses. Now, here's the fun part of of the Mountain West. San Diego State plays Boise State. Sorry, played them and beat them this past weekend, yesterday. So now San Diego State's in the driver's seat. San Diego State needs to win one of their last two games versus San Jose State and New Mexico. And then they're in. Okay? If they just win one of them, they're in the championship game. Now, Fresno State, Boise State. Fresno State has the tiebreaker over Boise State. They beat them about 30-7. They've got Utah State and San Jose State. Boise State's got to play Colorado State, Utah State. A lot of state schools. A lot of state schools I'm naming here back to back. It makes me feel like I'm going crazy, which I'm okay with because I kind of am. Not kind of, I really am. But a fun little race to find who's going to play San Diego State as long as San Diego State wins one of these games in the end. Just win one of them. Just win one of them. Because you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You got 5. Oh my gosh, actually. Wait a minute. You've got 5 teams with 2 losses. Hawaii's one of them. Hawaii's beaten San Diego State. So let's think about this. They've got at UNLV. That's going to be a tough one. And they play Wyoming and Hawaii on Thanksgiving weekend. So Hawaii has got the head-to-head over San Diego State. Hawaii has lost to San Jose State and Fresno State. So let's say this. Wow, man. This is unbelievable. Wow, this is going to be a tiebreaker. Oh, my gosh, yeah. That's a lot of stuff in my head going on. Because you'd have San Diego State, who lost to Hawaii but beat Fresno State. Fresno State beat Hawaii, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, by 2. So, I mean, wow. Mountain West Commissioner, call me. Call me. Let me know what the tiebreakers are. You know what? I may turn into G5 Jake. I might. I love the G5. Let's talk about G5. Let's talk about FCS. Nobody wants to talk about FCS. Here's the thing. FCS football, their last weekend of the regular season is this weekend coming up right here. This is it. Before the playoffs. Playoffs start Thanksgiving weekend. The playoff shows for the FCS will be next Sunday. They usually do it at like 2 o'clock or something like that, Eastern, 3 o'clock. And so you'll get to find that out. Here's the other cool thing. D2 and D3, guess what? Their selection show is today. D3's at 5. D2's at 6. Now, that's streamed on NCAA.com. And it's 4:45 right now, so in 15 minutes, that starts for the Division III. Once I get off this, I will go right to that and I will stream it. I can guarantee you that. Because I would love to know, Division III, where are my Berry Vikings? Where are they going to end up? Who are the top seeds in Division III? I believe they have a 40-team playoff in the Division III. I think that's what these college football playoff, these FBS guys are saying. Hey, let's go. Let's make it 40. Why not? Let's make it 100. Let's go Let's go December Madness, huh? That won't happen. It probably won't go over 12. But they're Big Ten came out with that thing. Hey, let's do 28. I mean, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, right? It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. But there are people saying, hey, what's the chances that the 28th team can actually win? I don't know. I've got thoughts sometimes that say, hey, why don't we just put every G5 team in there? Or not every G5 team, every G5 champion in there. Why wouldn't we do it? I mean, yeah, will they have a chance to win? Probably not. But in theory, those teams would be out in the beginning anyway. And then you can get 4 teams in SEC and SEC and Big Ten, and you can get maybe 3 from the ACC and Big 12, and then get 1 from each G5. And here's the thing: play the G5s against the at-large teams, assert your dominance, and then it doesn't matter. Everybody's happy. The G5 gets in. They play the first round. If they lose, hey, great. If they win, gosh dang, now we're saying, whoa, whoa. Well, now see that if that happened, if an at-large team lost to a G5 and all G5 champs got in, oh man, they might try to take the G5s back out. I mentioned, I think it was last week, do they split it up? Go FBS, P4, and then G5 separately. So that we get like a G5 champ, P4 champ. I don't think they'd ever do that either, unless these teams get away from the NCAA, which, hey, college football playoff is not NCAA. I mean, it's NCAA teams, but it's not like the NCAA FCS playoffs or the NCAA Division II or Division III playoffs. So who knows, man? Who knows? I mean, everything's just back and forth and going all over. You just don't know. Who knows what's going to happen? But I'll be here to watch it and talk with you about it. Okay? All right. So, anyway, like I said, we're jumping around a little bit. We got some playoff shows coming up. We've talked about conferences. We've talked about playoff picture, possible things that could happen in the playoff picture. The ACC is not as crazy because Duke lost. Georgia Tech won. Virginia won. So it's still kind of the same, except for there's not that crazy ACC not in the playoff at all. The G5 has been shaken up. USF is now out of the picture. Memphis is been out of the picture, lost again, so they're way out of the picture. Will it be Navy? Will it be Tulane? Will it be North Texas? Will it be East Carolina? Will it be James Madison? Because it will only be one, because now there will not be both of those ranked higher than, say, a Georgia Tech or Virginia, unless something crazy happens, but I don't foresee that happening. All right? We finally got some real talks about a head coach being hired. All this firing talk, man, the negativity is unbelievable. We finally got some talks about somebody bringing a coach in to actually be the coach and not firing them away from the program. And that makes me fired up. And because I think it's also a very good fit. Now this was said on College Game Day. If you watched it, you already know. You've got James Franklin, who is in talks with Virginia Tech now. Nothing set in stone, obviously. I mean, I'm not saying, hey, they told me first, because they don't, and they probably never will. But you've got them in talks. There's mutual interest for both. Now, I think this would be great for both sides, right? James Franklin, from what I've been told, what I've heard, he's already done a lot of recruiting in the Virginia area. He's not far from Virginia, being Pennsylvania. So he would already have some, he's already got some contacts. He already knows his way around. He knows where to be when he recruits that area, that hometown area, home state and the surrounding states area. I think it'd be great. That could possibly put Virginia Tech into a contender spot in the ACC. It could. Now, and the thing is if Virginia Tech hires him, that would be kind of like them saying they're going all in. We're trying to go, do great. Where was James Franklin before Penn State? Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt was not very good before these last 2 years, believe it or not. If you just started watching college football this year or last year, Vanderbilt has not always been this good. They usually win 2-3 games, 5 games a year. No bowl games for Vandy. Now it seems like they've been great forever. They haven't. Now I'm fired up for them. But they hadn't been great. James Franklin goes to Virginia Tech. He's got a little chip on his shoulder. You know why? You know why he's got it? Because he was wrongly fired. You know it, just like I know it. He's going to have a chip on his shoulder. And God forbid if Virginia Tech ever meets Penn State in any game. Ooh, man. I don't care who Penn State hires. Virginia Tech and James Franklin. If it happens, coming after him. And I'm excited about that for James Franklin because you know what? I've always liked James Franklin. Had no problems. I always thought he seemed like a great dude and a good coach. Now I like him even more because now he's facing adversity. And guess what? He's not whining. He's not crying. He said, let's freaking go to work. And he's about to go to VT and possibly get some stuff done. So that's great, man. That's great to hear some positivity in this head coaching carousel. You know what I mean? So I'm excited about that. Here's the thing, man. I've talked about it before. I'm tired of the false reports on X. They get me almost every time. I believe maybe my brothers or dad sent me something about Ed Orgeron trying to get into the picture in some of these jobs. Ed Orgeron's trying to get back into the game. I believe Arkansas was one of them. I believe Oregon State was one of them. I don't know. That would be interesting. So we'll see kind of how that goes. Obviously, we'll all hear it. We'll be listening out for it. And then when I get some reports, I'll let you know. Okay? I will let you know. All right. So like I said, hey, we're jumping around. I don't really care, man. I'm jumping around. That's how I was doing yesterday. I was watching 4 screens at a time. 4 screens at a time all day. So I'm watching, like that, four games at a time. That's how I love to do it. Okay, I love that. Okay. Well, I was gonna get to this one thing. Yeah, so I was gonna get to this. All right. Any other? There might be a couple other things that I wanted to talk about, and I'm gonna get to this right now. Yep, there we go. Yeah, so here's something that's interesting. The playoff committee chair is now taking a leave of absence. They're saying that he made a violation of the policies at Baylor. And so Baylor is, he's taking a leave of absence as the AD at Baylor. And so, therefore, he's taking a leave of absence from the committee. So now they had to make somebody else the chair, which is now Arkansas's athletic director, Hunter Yurachek. Okay? And so they brought the Utah AD in as the Big 12's member. Crazy stuff, man. Crazy stuff. Wow. Here we go. Yeah, that's it. That was one thing I wanted to mention. So anyway, I thought that was pretty interesting. There's been, before the season started, there were some members who said, you know what, I've got stuff going on. I can't do it this year, but they were gonna come back. There's a lot of moving in the committee, and it's hard to know how they're gonna treat it when they're moving people around when I'm trying to predict it. So I don't appreciate that, but it's not my job to pick it, but by gosh, I'm going to. So what are you going to do? Now, let's talk about this. My picks and my picks have been pretty garbage. I've made some pretty bad picks in the last couple of weeks. I have not tallied up my numbers, because I pick every game of FBS and FCS every week. I have not tallied it up yet, but I don't think it's going to be very good. Now, there's some games that I predicted that were, maybe not what everybody else thought, and I got them right, but there were more that I got wrong, I think. So I'll do that pretty shortly here today or tomorrow, and maybe bring it up when we talk about it with Griffin and Dalton. Also, here's the thing, right? So I've gotten into betting a little bit, right? I'm not throwing a whole lot of money down. I ain't got the money to throw down like that, okay? $5 here and there. But for me to make it worth it in my mind to say, hey, well, I'll just give $5 or, bet $5 on whatever. In my mind, I say, well, why don't I do like a parlay and then, I can get a bigger return. Idiotic thing for me to do. Because I do way too much. And then although I hit some, I'll miss just a couple, especially early on. There was one week where I did an 8-leg parlay. Just very, very go-getter mentality. and I missed 2 of the 8. But guess what? The first one that was played, I missed. So it didn't matter. I'm watching all these other games hit, but it didn't matter because the first one I missed. So anyway, so I think I need to start kind of dwindling down, the amount of games I bet on, because the 8 leg parlays, man, if you hit that, you're gonna make a little money. But the reason that you make as much because they're not as commonly hit. So I'm gonna try to tweak my thought process on that, because I think I'm kind of getting a little too ambitious. But it was bad this week, very bad. Um, you know, so maybe don't take any betting advice from me. I would tell you to do that even before I was betting, but definitely don't now. Kind of do your own thing or go off somebody else, right? So, and if you say, if there's something that I say and you say, "Oh, let me go with them on that," and then it doesn't work, doesn't hit, and then you say, "Well, Jake, this." No, no, I told you beforehand. Do not go off me. If you do, it's at your own risk. That's all I'll say. Here's the other thing: if you don't have the money, don't bet. Fair enough. All right, now listen. Um, we've gone through a lot. We've jumped around. We've talked about a lot of different things. We've talked about things that may come up on the show. We're going to start doing the comment of the week. Me, Griffin, Dalton will all have a comment that we pick from that week, and we'll talk about it just briefly. Give some people some shout outs. There were a couple good ones this past week that I'm excited to bring up with them on Wednesday. Now, here's another thing. I'm getting ready to start get some guests on the show. All right, Griffin and Dalton are guests technically, but they're kind of the weekday show. They're there. They're on that show. Right? They're on that episode. The episodes, they're there. But what I want to do is get some other guests on here, and I've talked with a couple people, and there's some others I'm still working on here in the near future. I don't know when it'll start, but it'll kind of probably depend on what that person can do, blah, blah, blah. But I think that would be awesome. I think it'd be great to get people on here, whether it's a current player, a former player, or somebody who just got, thoughts, opinions on different things, right? I think it's going to be awesome. I think it's going to be great. May bring a little more interaction into the show, and obviously that's what we want. We want more interaction. So I'm excited about that. That's going to be a lot of fun, I think. And we're getting here playoff time. You got 2 weeks left in the FBS regular season, 1 week of championship games, and then that's when the big selection show is on that Sunday, that very next day. It's like December 6th, 7th, I think it is, when the big selection show is. So that's when you got the FBS selection show. It is 5 o'clock. The D3 selection show is on NCAA.com right now. It's starting right now. When I get off this, I'm going to go watch. At 6, the D2 selection show is on. So back-to-back selection shows. I'm planning on being in attendance for both of those. Next Sunday, you've got the FCS playoff show, selection show. I'm certainly going to be tuning into that one. I just love the FCS, man. I do. I love the fact that there are teams out there in states where there's no FBS schools, and there are teams out there, and they freaking do really well. I really do. I played in the FCS, so I'm also very partial, a little biased to the FCS. I like the FCS. I like keeping up with it. So sue me. You don't have any ground to do it anyway, so don't even try. All right? Also, listen, I'm now picking a game or two each week that I want to watch what the offense or even the defense is doing in a certain game. So what I'd like for you to do is hit me up, comment, whatever, say, hey, check out the Texas Tech UCF game, or Missouri State UTEP, I don't know. and say, hey, look at so and so's offense. Whether you want me to look at something or you just want me to see it or you want to talk about it, whatever, just let me know. I'd love to look at it. I might have a plug or two that can get me some games in and I can check it out and we can talk about it. I'll find a way one of these days to actually show it on this dang podcast so I can talk through it. Now that's fun. That's the good stuff. And that might be a lot of off-season stuff as well because that'll be the time there's no games on, but we just got the itch. We need to watch. We need to watch. What's the film say? And we can do that. So listen, this has been a fun show. This is a 56-minute. I mean, it hadn't been here very long compared to some others, but my gosh, it seems like we've been here forever because we've just talked about so much material. I sound like a teacher, material, or a coach. We're just going over all this material. And I want to make sure I don't miss any games that we should have talked about. So hold on. Just give me just a second. Anything that we need to go through. Oh, speaking of film. All right. One game that I will have sent to me here today or first thing in the morning. So Troy played Old Dominion in Virginia on Thursday. Old Dominion just spanked them. Ran them right out of the stadium, 33-0. Old Dominion, if you've got some X and O's and you know what I'm talking about, zone read, right? I'm in the shotgun. I guess you can do it in the pistol, but they're in the shotgun. And we're reading the backside end, right? If the backside end crashes, quarterback pulls it. If not, I'm handing it off or running inside zone. Old Dominion runs zone read with the front side, technically the front side defensive end. So, and I haven't watched it yet. I'm going to go into it and watch it a little bit. I'm guessing the offensive line blocks like zone, say right, backs here. So it's same side zone, basically, inside zone. I'm reading the play side end, and if he crashes, the quarterback is pulling it and taking it that way instead of it's really, really cool, and I'm excited to watch that and get into that. So those are things like that I would love to look into and talk about it more. Clemson and Louisville. Louisville loses to Clemson. Dabo was lit. Clemson wins 2019. Louisville did not look very good. Offensively, they did not. Notre Dame dominates Pitt. I mean, we kind of figured that. Here's the thing. I picked Pitt during the week as the couple days went before the game. I changed it to Notre Dame because I just kept feeling worse and worse and worse about it. So then I go with Notre Dame. UConn beats Air Force. UConn. Griffin brought to our attention Fagnano, the quarterback there at UConn. He did throw a pick. It was his first pick of the year versus the Air Force Falcons, our military. All right. Talked about Arizona beating Cincinnati. Interesting one. Arkansas loses to LSU 23-22. LSU's interim coach, Frank Wilson, gets his first win as an interim head coach. Talked about that one. Talked about some of these. I picked Tennessee Tech. The spread between them was 21.5. 21.5 was how much Kentucky was favored by. I said, you know what? Tennessee Tech's good. FCS mindset. It killed me right here. I said, man, they're going to hold them within 3 touchdowns, and they lost 42-10. If you can't do the math that quick, it's 32 points. So that's one of the parts I lost. Iowa, USC. We're talking about USC a long time. USC is in a freaking dogfight with Iowa in California, a rainy day, and USC goes down 21-7 and wins 26-21. Huge, man. Keeps USC in the playoff hunt. And they got basically playoff game after playoff game for the rest of the year. Huge for USC and Lincoln Riley. Big time props for them. Penn State gets their first conference win of the year. Beats Michigan State 28-10. We talked about Bama, Oklahoma, Georgia Tech, Southern Miss, James Madison. Miami dominates NC State. People are just going to be trying to get Miami in the playoff for sure. And at large. But Miami's got to play Pitt, so we'll see kind of how that goes. All right. We talked about Memphis losing to East Carolina. Huge for East Carolina and Coach Blake Harrell. Congrats, gentlemen. Talked about Coastal and Georgia Southern. All right, Florida and Ole Miss. Now, Florida gave Ole Miss a great game. Florida played them hard. Ole Miss ends up pulling it out, wins in 34-24. Big time for Ole Miss. Now, Ole Miss they've got a bye week and they play Mississippi State. They beat Mississippi State. They're in the playoff. They may not play an SEC championship. They get a little time to rest, and they'll get in there. Georgia dominates Texas. I mean, it wasn't close. It was never close. I want you to remember this. Back probably a month ago, I said Georgia is now my favorite in the SEC. Do they need some help to get into the championship game? Yeah. But watch them play Texas and tell me that those dudes ain't a real freaking contender to go win the national championship. They absolutely are. They are very good. Now, Texas had got exposed. I think Texas is out of the picture. They got to be out of the playoff picture. They have to be. They did not look good. Did not look good, man. Yeah, so we talked about San Diego State, Boise State. Now, I'm just gonna go through these FCS games, and we'll talk about them just a little bit. All right. Harvard squeaks out a win versus Penn. Harvard is trying to be the first Ivy League team to get to the playoffs ever. This is the first time they've ever let them in. And Harvard is now undefeated. Is still undefeated, 9-0. They've got Yale this coming weekend. That is the game. All right. Harvard versus Yale. Always a big game. All right. Let's see. Western Carolina loses to ETSU. Western Carolina needed to win this game, needed to win out to be an at-large. They lost to Mercer, missed a game-winning field goal last weekend. Not yesterday, but the weekend before, to kind of win the conference or be in the driver's seat. But they missed the field goal, and then they lose ETSU. So now they're not even going to get to playoffs. They're 6-5 now. It stinks for them because they had a heck of a year, and their quarterback is unbelievably good. So, all right, let's keep rolling through here. Rhode Island dominates Maine. The CAA, Rhode Island's at the top. They thought that was going to be maybe a close game. Rhode Island dominates. Lehigh's dominating the Patriot League. They win 27-7 versus Colgate. Colgate, they're 4-7, but they're going to be a tough team in the future. They got a new coach. They were not very good in recent history, and but now they're improving. Valparaiso gets their first win of the year. First win of the year versus D1 team versus Stetson. Not one that's on many people's radar, but huge for Valparaiso. They're both in the Pioneer League, no athletic scholarships. South Dakota and Southern Illinois. This is a huge at-large game. Who's going to get into playoffs at large? And South Dakota is now on a roll. They're 8-4. Does that say 8-4? Yeah, 8-4. So, and now they've got a bye week. They've got the selection show on Sunday, hoping they get in. And they got a really good chance because they beat South Dakota State a few weeks ago. Presbyterian beat St. Thomas. Now, I'll tell you what, man, Presbyterian, they got a chance to win the Pioneer League. They were undefeated for a while. They're 9-2 now. All right, let's go to some more important games here. Southeastern Louisiana beats Incarnate Word. They're trying to play for basically an at-large spot in the playoffs from the Southland Conference. Okay. South Dakota State loses again. South Dakota State has now lost 4 games in a row. Chase Mason is not playing anymore. I shouldn't say that. He's been hurt. Has not played for the last 4 games. And they have been basically lost without him. Has 4 games in a row, lost to Illinois State, who's a good football team. But South Dakota State's usually much better than them. Not now. Mercer dominates Chattanooga. Mercer's playing Auburn this coming up weekend. And in the playoffs, they might be a top 8 seed in the FCS playoffs, which is a huge deal. You get a bye and all that good stuff. Well, Lamar lost to Stephen F. Austin, so Lamar's got the head-to-head over Southeastern Louisiana. They're both in the Southland Conference. Stephen F. Austin is the leader in that conference. Lamar and Southeastern Louisiana are trying to play for an at-large. So this coming up weekend will be huge for both those teams on what they'll do, if they'll get in the playoffs or not. Okay. I love playoff races at the end of the year. I love it. All right. Let's see. Got a few more. Montana State played UC Davis at home last night. 10-15, basically a nightcap on ESPN2. Montana State comes out with the win versus UC Davis, which is huge. It keeps Montana State rolling. Montana State plays Montana this weekend. What do they call that game? Crap. It's an awesome name. It's an awesome name for a rivalry. I gotta make sure I have it so I can tell you next time. But listen, that's what we've got there for the FCS. All right. And that's it. That's all we've got for the show. I greatly appreciate you being here. I hope we hit everything you wanted to hear. I'm trying to just tell you as much as possible. I want to talk to you as much about football as possible. That's what I want to do with basically everybody. Talk football, college football all the time. So if there's anybody else, any other team in particular you'd like to talk about, just hit me up and let me know. We'll talk about them a little bit more. If there's some film you want to check out, you want me to check out, or you want to see some stuff from it, hit me up. Let me know. I can get a game or two. All right. I can get it sent to me and I can watch it. I can show you clips. We can put it on the podcast one of these days. That's my plan. I'd love to do that at some point. Subscribe, rate, follow, whatever, man. I want to do this for you, and talk about a little ball. So subscribe, follow, rate, all that stuff. Get it. If you got somebody else who likes football, tell them to jump on there. Maybe they'll enjoy it, maybe not, who knows, but just subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything. It's easy. Thank you for being here, and we will be back middle of the week to kind of talk. We'll get to react to the CFP. We'll get to preview some games, and then we'll get to go into the weekend, huge weekend, where FCS selection show happens, teams trying to get in the playoff at large and win the conference. I mean, we got a lot of stuff going on this weekend. That's going to be super fun to figure out what happens. So thanks so much for being here. God bless you, and have a great week.